Could this be the start of a winning streak for the Frost? Let's think about it. Beat Boston on the second night of their season after they dropped to the New York Sirens. They dropped that game, so they lost that one. They defeated the Fleet just a few days ago. And today, this afternoon, they take down the Toronto Sceptres. My name is Scott McGregor. Sorry for the long introduction there, but it is time for us to get started with today's PWHL recap here on Sports for Beginners. Let's get rolling. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. It's the Minnesota Frost against the Toronto Sceptres. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of PWHL Recap. Just on December 4th, the Boston Fleet lost to the Minnesota Frost 2-1 as Minnesota bounced back from a 4-3 overtime loss to the New York Sirens on December 1st, 2024. They faced the Toronto Sceptres, who defeated Boston on opening weekend on November 30th, 2024, 3-1, and lost 3-2 to Ottawa on December 3rd, 2024. Who's going to be the first winner of the Frost game? Of the Frost series, I should say? With Toronto? Here we go. With our, as always, we always like to do this right off the jump. As always, here we go with our matchup between the Pipes and our head coaches. Leading off with the head coaches. Head coaches for Toronto, it's Troy Ryan versus Minnesota Frost head coach Ken K. Again, Ken, I'm using the K and nothing more, just in case I pronounce your last name wrong. And Troy Ryan is the head coach of the Toronto Sceptres. For the Toronto Sceptres, speaking of, they would go with Kristen Campbell to get the start, backed up by Reagan Kirk. Reagan Kirk was the backup, I should say, for Toronto. And our goaltenders for Minnesota, backup once again, Nicole Hensley. And the one that will get the start on the other side of the ice, opposite Kristen Campbell, Maddie Rudney. Maddie Rudney gets the start for Minnesota against Kristen Campbell, with Reagan Kirk and Nicole Hensley backing up. So 29 and number 1 backing up 35 and 50. It was 35 versus 50 this afternoon at Coca-Cola Coliseum. We are coming to you live just a couple minutes after the game went final. Final score 6-3. And we're going to jump into it by getting through to start our goal scorers. The first couple of goals that were scored in this game before we take our first break. So let's jump to it, shall we? Here we go. Claire B picks up her first goal of the game, and that would open the game up. That would open the scoring up for Minnesota and Toronto, as Minnesota takes an early 1-0 lead and gets the early lead for this hockey game. Claire B with her first goal of the new season, and the first goal of the season for her is the opening goal of this hockey game. Liz Shepherd's picking up her first assist of the season. Claire Thompson has 1 assist already this season, picks up her second assist of the season on that goal, which came 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the game. You talk about getting on the board quick. And that was quite quick for a team like Minnesota. You talk about getting on the board quick, as I said, and they certainly made that happen. 1-0 Minnesota. But if you think Toronto is just going to sit around and wait for something good to happen for them, whether that's a penalty taken by Minnesota or not, you've got another thing coming. Jessie Compierre picks up her first goal of the season, assisted by Rylan McKinnon. Her second assist of the season, and Ali Monroe pick up her first assist of the season. 8 minutes and 23 seconds in, and guess what? We're tied at a goal apiece after 20 minutes. Minnesota outshooting Toronto 13-11 in the shot totals after 1 period of play and after 20 minutes. No penalties to speak of in the first period. So during our penalty takers, we'll go to the second period penalties and the third period penalties as we speak. But moving on, tied at 1 after 20. Second period rolls around, and after one of the first penalties that was called in this game is taken by Toronto. It wasn't the first penalty that was called, but it was the first one called to Toronto. We're going to talk about who that was in a second. But because of that penalty, actually, when we get to the penalty takers is when we're going to do that. Because of that penalty, Minnesota's Dominique Petrie picks up her third goal of the new season, and it's her third of the season. Minnesota Frost's first goal on the power play this season, a PPG for MIN. That's for MIN, the short form for Minnesota. A PPG for MIN. And that is Dominique Petrie's third goal of the season. Dominique Petrie's third goal of the season. And on the assist, Captain Taylor Heisey, her second assist of the season, first of the hockey game. And speaking of firsts, Clara H. picking up her first assist of the season. 5 minutes and 35 seconds into the second period. Minnesota back in front, 2-1, on top of Toronto. Literally a few minutes later, 12 minutes and 5 seconds later, to the exact, Victoria Bach makes this game back in a tie with her first goal of the season, assisted by Renata Fast, her third assist of the season already, and Jocelyn Larocque picking up her first assist of the season as well. So there we go. Back and forth we go. It's now 2-2. Minnesota 2, Toronto 2. But the scoring would continue to go back and forth as Toronto would get a goal by Daryl Watts. It was unassisted. Her first goal of the season, unassisted. Time of the goal, 17 minutes, 41 seconds. And Toronto has their first lead of the hockey game. The Frost not going away though. Britta Corell Salamain, Britta CS, her first goal of the season, assisted by Brooke Bryant, her first assist of the season, and Sophie J, her third assist of the season. Sophie J, her third assist of the season. Brooke Bryant, her first assist of the season on the Britta CS goal to tie this one up at 3 goals apiece. 6 goals scored in the game, 2 in the second period. 2 aside. It's 3-3 headed to the third for the Frost and the Sceptres. Shots on goal still heavily favoring Minnesota at 23-17. Shots on goal after 40. 10 minutes. 10, I should say, for the Frost. And 6 for the Sceptres. 23-17. Your shot total after 40. And rather after 2 periods of play. Third period rolls around. And Minnesota Frost goes to work. The Minnesota Frost go to work. First, Britta, her second goal of the season. Taylor Heisey, speaking of that. Her second assist of the game. third of the season. So it was her third assist of the season for Taylor Heisey. Her second goal of the game and the season for Britta CS comes early third period to put Minnesota back in front, 4-3 Minnesota. Also, Brooke Bryant picking up her second assist of the game and of the season, connecting also with Taylor Heisey, who got her third assist of the season and second of the game. Speaking of seconds, Michela Cava had 2 goals in this game. Her first was after the Britta CS goal, 14 minutes and 47 seconds later. Britta's goal, her second of the season, came at 6 minutes and 39 seconds into the game, third period. Michela Cava's first goal of the game and second of the season comes in at 14 minutes and 47 seconds. And just like that, it's a 2-goal lead for the Frost. Kelly Panic on the assist, her second of the season. Kendall Coyne Schofield, her first assist of the season. Her first assist of the season on the Cava goal. Later in the period, Kristen Campbell is pulled. There's an empty net for the Sceptres. We're playing 6-on-5. Extra attacker out there for Toronto, trying to get back within 1, down by 2 goals at 5-3. Trying to get back within 1. 5-3 the score at this time in favor of Minnesota. And Michela Cava says, "Oh, an empty net? Let me go ahead and put the puck right in." And she does so for her third goal of the season. 18 minutes and 13 seconds in to the third period. Kendall Coyne Schofield on the assist. Her second of the game and of the season. So Michela Cava, third goal of the season, second of the game, to join Britta CS with her second goal of the season and first goal of the season. Both of those coming in this game. Nobody gets a hat trick in this one, but that's okay. All right, only one period where we can talk about penalty takers, and that is the second period. So you know what? We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll give you that period of penalty takers, including the Izzy Daniel tripping call that ultimately led to Minnesota's only power play goal of the game. Plus, how did the rest of the stats go down? The stars of the game. Women's Hockey Player of the Game. And not much happening in the PWHL yesterday. But what did happen? We'll take a look back at the action from Friday. And also before we set up Minnesota's next action, we'll set up what's coming up on the schedule as we continue on with PWHL recap. And also a minor note for Pittsburgh Penguin fans. Penguins postgame will follow Penguins pre-show with Thomas McGregor. I will be there during the 3 Keys to Victory segment if we get a chance to do that. But then you'll catch me on Penguins postgame, Penguins and the Maple Leafs tonight. And a minor note to fans. There will not be Philip Tomasino. He is out of the lineup tonight after he suffered an upper body injury per head coach Mike Sullivan. So Philip Tomasino will not play tonight against the Maple Leafs after an upper body injury he suffered. I don't have all the information, but we do know it did happen during the Rangers game last night on Friday night. He took a big hit from Sam Carrick, and immediately after scoring his 3rd goal in 5 games in the final frame. So that's just a quick update on that for you ahead of tonight's Leafs Penguins game. With that said, time for us to take a break. When we come back, who took Minnesota's only penalty of the game in that second period against the Sceptres, and who took penalties for the Sceptres in this game? That when PWHL recap continues, including, as well, our final shots on goal tally after regulation, total shots on goal, how special teams did, and our stars of the game. That all is coming up next on PWHL recap. Stay with us. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Dear Hockey, dear Hockey, dear Hockey. Today I would like to share my love, my gratitude, and my appreciation. You have always been there for me and those who have come before me. Side by side, we have had so many emotional moments.
Now memories that are ingrained into my forever. You have helped me grow, learn,
Persevere. You have believed in me,
supported me,
and elevated me.
my 24/7,
My 365,
and now my future.
and now my future.
And now my future.
I'm excited about what comes next. I know they will be unbelievable, unimaginable, and the unexplainable. But I promise to be strong, powerful, and be an ambassador of all your good. You have only ever given, and now it is my turn to give back. I am here to amplify.
I'm here to unify
I am here to exemplify.
dreams for every little girl across the globe.
Hockey is for everyone,
All my love,
forever.
always.
We got Penguins pre-show coming your way in a little bit, as we are about an hour away from puck drop in PPG Paints Arena. Penguins and the Maple Leafs tonight from PPG Paints Arena. I will have you later tonight, Penguins fans, for Penguins and Maple Leafs on Penguins postgame. Quite a bit of action that we need to get to when it comes to that. And there's also quite a bit of games going on today in the NHL. But we're not going to talk about those games on this episode of PWHL Recap. Maybe not till the end of the program. Women's Hockey Player of the Game coming up in a matter of moments. But before we get there, as we roll on here, we're going to start with giving you our final total after regulation of shots before we wrap up with our shots on goal for the entire game. And that was 13-7 in favor of the Frost, as they win 6-3 against the Sceptres and win the first of 6 games between Minnesota and Toronto. All right, so with that said, here we go quickly here before I have to take another break. Quickly here. Penalties in this game started 57 seconds into the second period, as May Batherson is called for Minnesota to take 2 minutes in the penalty box for tripping. At that time, just 57 seconds in, and May Batherson is going in the box 57 seconds into the game's second period for tripping. Tripping was quite a theme, but the Sceptres also receive a minor penalty for slashing at 7 minutes and 14 seconds in. That went to Ryland McKinnon. Izzy Daniel spoke about her during the scorers. After we pretty much talked about that, she took the first penalty for the Sceptres at 3 minutes and 47 seconds in. And that, at that point in time, is when the Minnesota Frost would score their only power play goal of the game. So just like Minnesota's power play, which ends the day 1-for-2 on the power play and 1-for-1 on the penalty kill, Toronto's power play ends the day 0-for-1 on the power play and 1-for-2 on the penalty kill. Shots on goal favoring Minnesota at 36-24, the final tally. And we're going to get to the play of the game just before we get to the women's hockey player of the game. That coming up in the next segment. But before we get there, it's time for your 3 stars of this hockey game and your 3 stars of the hockey game between Minnesota and Toronto. They are as follows. Your 3rd star is Daryl Watts, a goal, no assist in the game. Your 2nd star, Minnesota Frost player number 27, Taylor Heisey, no goals and 2 assists on the game. And your 1st star, 2 goals, no assists, it's number 77, Britta C.S. Britta C.S., Taylor Heisey, and Daryl Watts are your 3 stars of this game. Play of the game, as I said before, is coming up in our next segment. But one final thing to do here before we take the break, as we wrap up penalty takers, shots on goal, game stats, and our power plays and penalty kill. We're going to talk about what went down. Let's do that actually before we take the break. Let's talk about what went down on Friday. That was yesterday, when the Montreal Victoire took on the Ottawa Charge at Canadian Tire Center. On Friday, that game went final 2-1 in favor of the Victoire. The Victoire picking up the 2-1 victory over Ottawa, with goals coming by Captain Clutch, Marie-Philippe Poulin. Well, that's a name that we've come to know. It is 6 o'clock as we continue on here. We are about an hour away from puck drop as we go into the second of our double trouble, Penguins and the Maple Leafs, which means we are moments away from getting out of here from PWHL recap. Our second portion of Double Trouble features Penguins postgame, Penguins and the Maple Leafs. That game just about an hour away from puck drop as we speak with you. Anyways, back to the action from Friday. Marie-Philippe Poulin with one of the goals by Minnesota Charge players. Ashton Bell with the only goal for the Charge. Michaela Grant Mentes with the other goal by Montreal to win the game. And a couple of penalties there, but we're going to leave it at that. Montreal with the W. Ottawa with the loss. The rest of the games that are on the schedule besides this game are coming up in just a little bit, including what kind of action is happening on Sunday. That's tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk about that coming up a little later. But as we take this break, I want to remind you that the play of the game, women's hockey player of the game, is coming up next. And from there, we'll take a quick 30-second timeout to hear a word from on the ice and behind the benches. And then we will set up Minnesota versus Ottawa on Thursday, December 19th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, from the Xcel Energy Center. We'll set that up for you, as well as Toronto's next action, and the action leading up to that. We'll set that all up for you in a few minutes' time. But next up, before that 30-second timeout, the women's hockey player of the game and the play of the game, all coming up next. Stick with us.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Dear Hockey, dear Hockey, dear Hockey. Today I would like to share my love, my gratitude, and my appreciation. You have always been there for me and those who have come before me. Side by side, we have had so many emotional moments.
Now memories that are ingrained into my forever. You have helped me grow, learn,
Persevere. You have believed in me
supported me,
and elevated me. My 24/7, my 365,
and now my future.
and now my future.
And now my future.
I'm excited about what comes next. I know they will be unbelievable, unimaginable, and the unexplainable. But I promise to be strong, powerful, and be an ambassador of all your good. You have only ever given, and now it is my turn to give back. I am here to amplify.
I'm here to unify
I am here to exemplify.
dreams for every little girl across the globe.
Hockey is for everyone,
All my love,
forever.
always.
Minnesota on a 2-game winning streak after defeating Boston in the Walter Cup rematch 2-1. You'd think they would win 2-1 against Toronto, but goals got scored in today's matchup that began at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. in the UK, and 8 p.m. in France. Beginning 12 minutes after 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. in the UK, and 8 p.m. in France. It ended at 4:28 p.m. Eastern, 3:28 p.m. Central, 1:28 p.m. Pacific, 9:28 p.m. in the UK, and 10:28 p.m. in France. Well, it was a 6-3 game in favor of Minnesota in the 6 in Toronto at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. And Minnesota picks up the dub 6-3 on this Saturday afternoon matinee matchup with the Sceptres. They pick up a 6-3 win over the Sceptres in Toronto today and grab their second win of the season after dropping the first game to the New York Sirens 4-3 in overtime on December 1st, last Sunday. As it is the season of giving, December 1st marked the first day of Advent, of the Advent season. It was the first Sunday of Advent. The second Sunday of Advent is next Sunday, this Sunday, that's tomorrow, I believe. That is the 8th of December, which is tomorrow. But a lot more on that another time. As I said, 6-3 the final in favor of Minnesota. They're on a 2-game winning streak. Meanwhile, Toronto is on a 2-game losing streak as they lost the last game they played to Ottawa. They lost to Ottawa 3-2 on Tuesday, December the 3rd. But started the season on a high note with a 3-1 win over Boston. And Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto, the only teams to win their home opener so far. The only team yet to have their home opener is the New York Sirens. Boston lost their home opener to Minnesota on December 4th. And Ottawa has lost their home opener. Oh no, sorry. Ottawa had their home opener on Tuesday. They won that game. Montreal has won their home opener. Toronto won their home opener. So Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto so far are the only 3 teams that have won their home opener. Boston lost their home opener. And Minnesota, as I said, they lost their home opener in overtime to the Sirens. So the Sirens are the only team left with a home opener to give, and that comes your way Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time between the Sceptres and the Sirens. Alright, so before we go any further, this is the play of the game time. So today the play of the game, I should say, because this game was an afternoon game. It's going to go to, for me, I mean, there's a lot for me to pick, especially when it comes to Minnesota. But for me, I'm going to go to a Toronto Sceptres goal. And I'm going to go to Victoria Bach. I'm going to go to Victoria Bach's goal. in that second period after the score went 2-1 in favor of Minnesota. That put Minnesota on notice. And it also tied the game. And then Darryl Watts put the game in Toronto's favor for the moment. Because literally a minute and 41 seconds later, it was Britta CS who turned things around for Minnesota and gave us a 3-3 tie after 40 minutes of play. So the play of the game for me goes to Toronto Sceptres' goal scored by Victoria Bach. Her first goal of the season. And what better way to do that than against the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost. Penguins pre-show coming your way in just a few minutes, but before we get there, and before we get to the last break that will send us out there, you've waited long enough. And I promised it was gonna come. So ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the third time this year. It is now time. Third time this year, it is time once again for our Women's Hockey Player of the Night. I'm going to throw it over to our good buddy Thomas with one of the things we pre-recorded at the start of the inaugural season to give us our introduction for Sports for Beginners. So without further ado, here comes our introduction for the Women's Hockey Player of the Game. Here we go.
It's time for tonight's Women's Hockey Player of the Game. Who had the best game tonight? Let's find out right now on the Sports for Beginners podcast.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for that introduction. Of course, that's the PWHL Women's Hockey Player of the Night introduction, but we're using it as our Player of the Game because night, day, it doesn't really matter to me. Midday, it doesn't really matter to me when the PWHL is playing in a game, as long as we're able to get something out to you as best we can. Time to find out who the recipients are going to be for Minnesota and Toronto. Let's start with the victorious Minnesota Frost. And as we are now just about 45 minutes away from puck drop, we are going to limit it to just one player from each side. So here we go with our first recipient coming from the Frost, coming from the Minnesota Frost. And today that recipient is going to be goaltender Maddie Rudney. It's going to be Maddie Rudney. Maddie Rudney made 21 saves on 24 shots. Played an entire 60 minutes. Did give up 3 goals, but her team backstopped her to get the win against Kristen Campbell and the Toronto Sceptres. With that said, I actually should have said we were about 46 minutes away from puck drop in Pittsburgh. My bad, sorry about that. Now we are about 45 minutes away from puck drop in Pittsburgh. But regardless, we have Maddie Rudney with the recipient of the Women's Hockey Player of the Game against the Sceptres today for Minnesota. Speaking of the Sceptres, the Women's Hockey Player of the Game today is going to go to Jessie Compere. It's going to go to Jessie Compere. Jessie, if I pronounce your last name wrong, I apologize. And for those who don't know, Jessie's brother is in the NHL playing for the Detroit Red Wings, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if he was traded yet or what's happened with him so far. But in the inaugural season, he was playing with the Detroit Red Wings. And his sister is playing right now for the Toronto Sceptres. So I'm going to give it to her. I thought she played well. A goal in this game, no assists. She had one shot on goal, which went in. She also was a +1 in this game. Runner-up for this one would be Sarah Nurse. 3 shots on goal for Nursey tonight. For Nursey today, I should say. None of which went in because Maddie Rudney was able to stop them. And the other reason why I have a runner-up for Sarah Nurse is because even though she was a -5, I still think if things go maybe a bit the other way, perhaps, Toronto stuns Minnesota and picks up their second victory in the 2024-2025 season, which, by the way, is the second season of the PWHL since its inaugural season in January of 2024. Lasted 24 games for each squad, and a couple other games, regardless of that, 24 games schedule for each team. This year it's 30 games, which means a total of 90 games are played this season, and credit to the people on the call. I gotta remember who it was that said this, but I don't remember that right now. I did watch the game on CBC Gem. If you did not check out this game, wait for it to become available on the PWHL YouTube channel where you can watch all the highlights from the game. The live streams are not available in Canada, but they are available in the United States and internationally as well. But if you're able to catch a game in Canada on TSN or CBC or wherever it's available, including on the United States front, NESN, which stands for NESN. You'll catch all the Boston Fleet games on those games. All right. With that said, and with the Women's Hockey Player of the Game out of the way, and our Play of the Game out of the way, it is time for us to take one final commercial break. But before we do, what else is on tap this week in the PWHL? An international break will take place starting on Monday, December 9th, 2024. And the action will continue Tuesday, December the 17th, 2024. Before that, however, we have one more game before the international break. The first international break of the season. And that features the Boston Fleet. Speaking of the Boston Fleet, they will take on the New York Sirens from the Tsonga Center, the site of where the Walter Cup rematch happened. And then they will open up the next week of hockey action after the first international break of the new season, where they will take on the Ottawa Charge from the Tsonga Center. Game time for the Ottawa Charge game on December 17th. 2024 is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. 4 p.m. Eastern Time is the New York Siren game on Sunday at the Tsonga Center. Check your local listenings for the game. And if you are watching this one on Tuesday, all of the Tuesday games this season in the PWHL are available on Amazon Prime. And a lot of our Canadian games, including the Montreal Victoire games, those are available on RDS, TSN, and sometimes CBC. Check your local listenings for where to catch the game, or check it out live and follow the game when it is live on the PWHL not the PWHL YouTube channel. I was going to say the PWHL game summary box score, rather. That's where you can find all the games as they happen and keep in mind with what's going on in the game. Then the PWHL YouTube channel will have you covered if you're in Canada and can't watch the game live. On YouTube, it will have you covered for all highlights of every game, all on the PWHL YouTube channel, as well as what they've introduced new this season, post-game press conferences. Haven't had a chance to check those out? What are you waiting for? Go check that out. Hear what players had to say after the game, head coaches as well. Go check it out. All right, with that said, that's a little bit of what is coming up in the schedule. Of course, there is an international break coming up, and action will not be back until the 17th of December. Our action won't be back until Thursday, December 19th, 2024, when we cover the Minnesota Frost taking on the Ottawa Charge. For this one, it will be Ottawa's second game back from the international break. Minnesota, its first game back from the international break. All right. 30 seconds of a timeout, as we are now about 36 minutes away from puck drop in Pittsburgh. A short Penguins pre-show coming your way next on Sports for Beginners. Before we get there, I need to wrap this up. We wrap it up, getting you set for Charge and Frost next time on PWHL Recap. And we'll also set you up for Fleet versus Sirens. That's tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. I should say Central, 1 p.m. Pacific time. We set that up in 30 seconds when PWHL Recap returns. Stick with us.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Time to send you off, I should say, to the beginning of our second part of our Double Trouble on Sports for Beginners, as we send you from the Women's Hockey League to the second of 3 matchups between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the first of 2 meetings down at PPG Paints Arena. Thomas will have you set up for Penguins pre-show. I'm there for the keys to victory, should we be able to get to them. But the game itself is coming up next, so stick around because I'll be back with you for Penguins postgame, Penguins and Maple Leafs. Probably coming your way after the game, right after the game, or ahead of Bills versus Rams, which is another show we do, Bills postgame. That comes your way on December 9th. But that'll be coming your way after I meet with someone for a commitment I have. So we won't have it up on Monday for you, but we actually might have it up on Monday for you if I record on Sunday, right after Bills and Rams. That's for Bills postgame. Can we get another Victory Monday for the Buffalo Bills on Bills postgame? We'll find out when the clock hits triple zeros at the end of the 4th quarter of that game. But hockey until then. So with that said, before we wrap this up and set you up for Frost and Charge, let's go back in time to a very special message that got things started in January 2024 when the inaugural season made its debut on New Year's Day in January 2024. Here's that message that we pre-recorded prior to the inaugural season beginning from the PWHL players who played during that time. After that, we'll wrap this up and set you out to Penguins pre-show. That's coming up in just a few minutes. All right, with that said, I'm not going to waste any more time and let the message do the talking.
Dear Hockey, dear Hockey, dear Hockey. Today I would like to share my love, my gratitude, and my appreciation. You have always been there for me and those who have come before me. Side by side, we have had so many emotional moments.
Now memories that are ingrained into my forever. You have helped me grow, learn,
Persevere. You have believed in me
supported me,
and elevated me.
my 24/7,
My 365,
and now my future.
and now my future.
And now my future.
I'm excited about what comes next. I know they will be unbelievable, unimaginable, and the unexplainable. But I promise to be strong, powerful, and be an ambassador of all your good. You have only ever given, and now it is my turn to give back. I am here to amplify.
I'm here to unify
I am here to exemplify.
dreams for every little girl across the globe.
Hockey is for everyone.
All my love,
Forever.
always.
And with that, PWHL recap. Sceptres Frost has reached the conclusion of our program today. Lots more hockey coming your way on Sports for Beginners. We've got Penguins versus Maple Leafs. Thomas will set you up for that on the Penguins pre-show in just a few minutes' time. We've already looked at the schedule, and there's not a lot of games going on until Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. But our next broadcast will be when the Minnesota Frost go head-to-head with the Ottawa Charge. Meanwhile, Toronto's next action, fresh out of the international break, will be the second time they will. Nope, they haven't done it yet. This is the first time they will battle the New York Sirens. That's Wednesday, December 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time from the Prudential Center. And that is the home of the NHL's New Jersey Devils. Looking forward to that one. That should be a good one. And I'm also looking forward to our next broadcast. 6 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Charge versus Frost. Meanwhile, an international break will take over. And then the Boston Fleet have 2 games. Well, actually, they have 1 game before the international break against the Sirens. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing how that game goes. Though I wish I could watch the game, but I gotta watch the Bills take on the Rams. That's okay. We make time for what we can. Should be a good one regardless between the Sirens and the Fleet. The Fleet are back in action on Tuesday to open up the games after the international break when they'll take on the Charge from the same place they take on the Sirens tomorrow afternoon. With that said, that is pretty much it for this one. But before we go, not going to get into our attendance record as much as we would love to. Before we go, though, I am going to provide you with our officials for this hockey game at Coca-Cola Coliseum. Our officials were Chad and Gales, and Shauna Neary. Those were our Shauna Neary and Chad and Gales. Those were your referees. Chad, if I pronounced your last name wrong, I apologize. Shauna, same for you. Sophie Thompson. Yes. Sophie, if I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. But Sophie T and Justine Todd, your Lions person for this game. And there you go. Those are your officials wearing the numbers 25, 49, 75, and 50. Justine Todd, Sophie T, your Lions person wearing numbers 75 and number 50. Shauna Neary and Chad I wearing numbers 25 and 49. And that's it. Let's not waste any more time and send you off to Penguins pre-show, as we are now just under 26 minutes away from puck drop in Pittsburgh. Short Penguins pre-show coming your way. next. As for me, Penguin fans, I will catch you later in the Penguins pre-show and later tonight in Penguins post-game. But for those who love the PWHL, always remember, hockey is indeed for everyone. And with that said, the final score this afternoon at Coca-Cola Coliseum: Frost 6, Sceptres 3. The Minnesota Frost win it 6-3 at Coca-Cola Coliseum this afternoon. My name is Scott McGregor. Love one another. We'll see you next time on PWHL Recap for the Charge and the Frost. After the international break, we will see you for that edition after the international break on PWHL Recap here on Sports for Beginners. Until then, we'll see you next time. Penguins pre-show next on Sports for Beginners. See you then. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.